up Chapter 9 here. Chapter 8, Chapter 9 are very long chapters. And they're kind of the nexus point for the change in the game. You're going to kind of flow chapters 1 through 7. You're going to make slight adjustments in your menus and equipment to make each chapters. Chapter 9 is one of your tops, huh? I find there's a lot of chapters I'm kind of indifferent to, or don't really I think like anything but chapter 11 and 10. 10 is kind of fun, but I very much dislike the pump minigame. Chapter 9's a little bit slow because of the hand minigames. Chapter 11 suffers from having ghoul in it. There's a lot of little things, but overall those chapters are somewhat fun. 9 is pretty interesting. I think the arena has a lot to offer. So we're going to switch Aerith around a little bit. Mainly Chapter 8 is you shifting gears into abusing Aerith. So we're going to be, let me show off my materia. Actually reset the timer because that's not correct. The dresses. So this is what Cloud's on. We've got a self-destruct setup. Being that sometimes you whiff with self-destruct, healing is very nice. Sometimes Aerith takes a lot of damage, so healing is very good too. Assist, First Strike, and Boost are probably the best choices you can have for Cloud. You could take healing off and put in Deadly Dodge, Skill Master, Stagger, maybe. Those aren't awful options. I find Stagger is usually equipped to my weapon, so it would be either Skill Master or Deadly Dodge. Aerith is going to ride Magnify and Wind Synergy. We're actually going to toggle out her Wind Synergy to Lightning Synergy very shortly. Double Magic up, Skill Master, First Strike, Stagger, MP up. You can double down on MP ups here if you really have an issue with your MP management. I find one MP up is enough, especially with Synergy mixed in, because this doesn't cost you any MP to cast, so depending on how you micromanage your fights, you can get away with, see, like right here, no MP is used, and the enemy is immediately turboed into the dirt. So same thing here, Disorder, get a Synergy. If you whiff with Disorder, I find the quickest way to deal with this fight is going to actually be just to micro-menu a Soul Drain. Soul Drain is what we consider a 5th equipment. So I missed here, so I'm letting the arrow resolve, and then what I'm going to do is, well, you know, I don't even... So what I would do is this. That Soul Drain will finish off the Lesser Drake. If you do hit with Disorder, what you can do is just let it ride out, and she'll usually finish the fight off. If you don't trust the AI, feel free to always do the Soul Drain. Just remember that you haven't spent any MP up to this point, because Synergy requires no MP in the PC and PS5 version. This route will not work on the PS4 because Synergy is completely different. So you would have to be casting spells with Aerith the whole way. If you're on the PS4, you're going to need a completely different route. If you're on PC or PS5, these routes will work just fine. The fact is, Synergy works completely different on the PS4 version. So your MP is going to be a lot tighter. Right here, if you wait for that little up tick to 5 times, you should be in the right spot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. And that'll pretty much put you about in the right spot each time. It'll be a little bit tall, but it's better than bouncing off the ladder. That was also a little bit off because I kind of just reset it arbitrarily. Basically doing that, like counting the little arrow pulses up, is the best way to deal with these. So we switched over to Lightning Synergy here, because we're just going to rip through most of the enemies by triggering Synergy. There's a couple of ways to handle this fight. You can Disorder and then attack a couple of times and do another Disorder, but I find that's not consistent. See how he's still got some HP. So what I do is Disorder and then Blade Burst. Blade Burst will do more damage than Disorder. Disorder is very good at ATB management and triggering Synergy, but it's not very good at outputting damage. So you need to balance your Disorders out with actual damage input. So what we're going to do is Disorder, swing a couple of times to get some ATB, Blade Burst, roll out of it, and then walk. There you go.
Has to be a way through.
If you really want to, yeah, you could use Thundera in a lot of these fights. You don't need to hold out on Aerith's MP so much, or ATB, like Strife has mentioned to me. You can very easily be a little more aggressive with her casting. But for a beginner, I'd say go this way because you don't have to worry about your MP. As you work through the game, make sure that you're kind of working in casting as you need it. And try not to hold out on your MP too much. I find that's one of my greatest weaknesses, is that I'm very, very, very conservative with Aerith's MP. And unnecessarily so. With Synergy mixed in, your MP micromanagement is not as important. You could probably Thundera and I think Blade Burst at a distance, and that would be enough. This is more of I'd say a MP-friendly route to where you can miss input a few times and still be okay. But with Synergy looped in, you can usually use that as a way to back up and get yourself out of a lot of nasty situations. But it is something I need to correct myself, so I need to go back and reroute some stuff. Some of this is probably something that's left over from early routing that I need to break the habit of. If you have ATB, you really need to figure out which is quicker. Which is quicker, smoke them if you got them, or holding on to the MP and finishing that fight and then wasting it somewhere else. I tend to do this so I can be a little bit more aggressive in certain fights. Honestly, what this sets you up for is you have a Thundera Magnify in your back pocket for almost every fight. Unless you know something's going to go down to it. Mainly, I just kind of... it's not even the ATB that I like to sit on, it's the MP. So keep that in mind, and feel free to experiment with different routing. But initially, I find it's better to be more conservative with your MP, and then kind of find that fine line where you're putting yourself, pushing your MP costs a little bit forward, because I'll actually, I'm going to switch over to MP Absorb Fire for Hell House, and we're going to be using a lot of Synergy Wind on Hell House, so your MP cost is going to be very low for that fight. So we're going to Sort Drain here. Really doesn't matter what you do. Butch has way too much HP, so you're going to need to do something. I find, because of Synergy, you want to act with Cloud second instead of first. You can try Thundera Magnify, Sorcerer Storm. There's a couple of different things you can do with that fight. The problem is Butch has a humongous HP pool, so he's really hard to put down in a single command. Depends on what your shortcuts are. You could probably Thundera Magnify possibly too. Depending on how aggressive or passive you are with your MP spending and ATB using. So this fight right here can be pretty obnoxious. Just gonna ATB boost. That is not how you do that. Not even close how you do that fight. Let's see here, where does this put me? I'm gonna go over this fight a few times because it can be quite hard to catch it first. This is one of those fights you want to practice. So a lot of the fights, as you go through and you're learning them, make sure you save and load a few times, do the fights until you're comfortable. This one right here, you want to do several times. So ATB boost, and then you want to lock onto the sweeper, which the problem here is the sweeper is really fussy. And if you see low damage, Synergy Thunder can get you out of it. You got to be careful, though. If you're too aggressive with Thundera Magnify, what I did is I stopped myself from hitting with the Synergy Thunder. So what you want to do is hit with the Thundera first and then follow up with Blade Burst. So I kind of did it. I've been doing it backwards. ATB boost, Thundera, Blade Burst, and then there you go. If they're close enough, the Thundera Magnify will multi-hit the sweeper, which is what's killing. So it kind of depends on how you do things. You want to make sure the person with Synergy is acting first, and then the person that is triggering Synergy is acting second. If the person that's casting Synergy has to do something first. So you want to make sure locked on, Blade Burst, and then you go. So the problem is that Synergy likes to buffer inputs in such a unique way that you can actually sometimes interrupt it. So like doing the Thunder on Magnify can interrupt it. That's why you, a lot of times with Barret in the earlier chapters, I'll like Catastrophe first and then do something with Cloud after. Because I want to get either want the Catastrophe to come out, that's going to be what kills, or I want the Thunder to come right after the Catastrophe so that it lands. So Synergy is one of those things you need to keep in mind how kind of it functions. So we're just going to grab these and move them. There's really no trick to this. Just get used to it. I'm not sure if it's faster to like mash out as soon as you can, or you know, making sure you're exactly in the right spot, like you do the controls faster than the game does. I'm not sure. I just kind of mash it out when I get the chance and let the game take control of the rest, so I could like take a sip of water or whatever if I want. If you're on the PC version, you kind of have longer loads, but if you're on the PS5, you have to, you know, take your sips of water during gameplay. It's kind of frustrating. It's nice that it runs much quicker, but it also makes it very hard to get any downtime. You have to create the downtime during gameplay experience. So we're just going to drop Aerith off here. If for whatever reason you're considering like doing new game but watching this tutorial for hard, just keep in mind that Magnify takes forever to get here. Magnify will actually drop down and be easily available in Chapter 13. So you lose quite a significant amount of time grabbing it here. It will end up to the point where like you get an extra level on it earlier, but it ends up not being important is what I've been told. So don't stress out about the Magnify materia. Let it come to you instead of going to it, because the hand puzzle is really, really long. So don't worry about it. Yeah, it's I think a lot of people don't know that the Magnify materia shows up in Chapter 13 on your way. It makes sense, but like, you see a blue materia there, almost everybody is going to go for it because we all have been like trained. Oh, Elemental's really good. Oh, Magnify is really good. All materia is super strong. This fight right here can be super... This fight right here is going to be super obnoxious. So Bandit C has a ridiculous HP pool again, just like Butch. So what we're going to do is come over here. We're going to Blade Burst and try and target Bandit C. If we don't get Bandit C targeted, we're going to have to do a little glitchy synergy. So we got Bandit A, wait for Aerith, you see Thunder, and then switch. Now, if this happens, then you can just do that. Sometimes the bandits are in really weird positions and will somehow dodge Blade Burst. I couldn't tell you how they managed to stand inside of magic blades of death and go, I don't care. But yeah. So practice this fight a little bit. It'll save you some time in the long run. So Blade Burst, switch over. When you see Thunder, what you're not reacting to her jumping. You're not reacting to any movement of Aerith. You're looking for the word Thunder. Whenever you're trying to retarget with Synergy, that's what you're reacting to. The magic spell name appearing. If you do that, you'll always get your retarget. If you react to the character's movements or jumping around or anything, you're going to screw yourself out of Synergy. So unless you're trying to actively stop Synergy from activating for one reason or another, because it's going to screw up your strat, you're reacting to the name. If you're trying to stop it, you're swapping before the name shows up. If you're trying to retarget with it, you're reacting to the spell name showing up. So keep that in mind as you're learning Synergy abuse. So we got Bandit B again. And then we're going to wait. Thunder. Then we can do that. There you go. So that's that for the Broken Highway. We're going to be wandering around in Wall Market for quite a while. Like I said, I really am being very greedy with my ATB and MP. You can kind of see Aerith's at 138 still, and she has a single MP up. Honestly, you could do two things. You could either cut the MP up, which I wouldn't suggest. MP up and Stagger is a very good wombo combo on the end of her weapon. She's very often going to be staggering enemies, and if she's not staggering, she's going to be one-shotting. No. So to recast Synergy, you're not reacting to her animations or movements or any of that. You're waiting for the Synergy to say it's casting that spell. So when the Thunder shows up from the Synergy cast, that's when you're switching characters. The game, I'm not sure what the game does, but the easiest way to put it is the game gets confused and goes, oh, you're casting a spell with that character? Okay, what are you targeting? That? Okay. I think it's part of a mechanic we call target corruption, where you kind of corrupt what the game is targeting. I think it's a different form of it that we do with Synergy. Target corrupting is a very hard thing to explain, and it's not something I normally use, that we use in hard. Not in glitchless. So don't worry about target corruption, just you're reacting to the game casting the spell, and if you go to swap characters during that, even if you switch to the wrong character, you usually have enough time to input another switch to that other character. So the animations of her jumping, twirling, or whatever isn't really what you're looking for. It's the spell itself popping up. You're looking for thunder, or fire, or wind, or whatever to force it. And what it is we're not recasting it, we're just retargeting it. So her free Synergy Thunder, normally it would target Bandit B or whatever I had started on. So just to do a quick explanation. So I'll pause this as I do it. So I can kind of ruminate on this. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna Blade Burst. So this Bandit right here, Bandit D, would be the one that she'd normally hit with Thunder. So I'm not gonna do anything, and you see the Thunder hits nothing, because Bandit D is dead. There's a couple of different varieties. I actually need to make a video specifically on Synergy, but we'll talk about it right here, right now. So hopefully somebody going through this series, this is where it starts getting very important. So we're on Bandit C, and I switched to her too soon. She didn't do anything. So it's not her animations, and even I make this mistake. You're looking for the spell name. If you see her hopping around, that means she's getting ready to cast, but what you need to be reacting to is the word thunder, or fire, or wind, or whatever spell it is above their head. So Bandit B, wait for the spell name, switch to spell, now we get to corrupt the targeting. There you go. So now you've retargeted with it. So you kind of see all the variations. If you switch to her while she's dancing around, you're going to whiff it. If you switch once the spell comes out, or the spell name pops up, bam, you're going to get the retargeting. And this is one of the things right here, you want to make sure you're not walking into progression points aggressively like that, or else you get that really slow backup animation. That's why you'll see people kind of waiting normally before they go through a hole or whatnot. Do a high five, whatever. I'm just like whiffing at it. It's it really isn't target corruption, but you're kind of like you're abusing the system and telling it, no, I want you to attack that, basically. Target corruption is something completely different, but if you've heard the word thrown around, basically, I'm just telling the game, no, I cast that spell, and I want you to hit that thing. And the game goes, okay. No. Target corruption is something completely different that requires like a bunch of setup. So we'll just let's go right here. I kind of got distracted by my own voice, as usual, as you do. Yes, if you react to her moving around, you'll end up canceling it. I'm actually going to abuse canceling it in Hell House. I have a very particular Hell House fight. You can break. We're gonna cancel out synergies because if you set up the stagger values very particularly, you can instantly stagger Hell House. I'll go over it very shortly in this fight, but I believe I have a video that's a lot more long-winded on it. I might go back and redo the entire boss series because I think some of them are a little bit difficult and poorly explained. And I've been getting a little bit better at explaining them as I've done the series the longer. So I think the bosses may get completely redone. and then just relink the old ones if you really want those particular ones.
Maybe we'll have to back in town.
But yeah, that's the easiest way to understand it. So when you see the spell is what you want. You will see sometimes when a character activates Synergy that it'll say X spell magnify. That's just a graphical glitch. It doesn't actually magnify the spell. I'm not sure why it does that. I think it has something to do with however they coded Synergy. So just flat out ignore that. That is of note. So there is a save load here for PC, PS5. If save loads are banned, just kind of ignore this. But this does save a little bit of time. So just so you know, I want to put them in there as they're applicable. But know that if save loads do end up getting banned, that not do these. They do save a little bit of time. On the PC, it loses you real time. But because of the load remover, it saves you in-game time. So we're just going to be doing a lot of movement around here. These areas are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so people can.
It technically doesn't matter which order you do things in. Madam M does have to be last because she won't activate until you do Honeybee and Sam. I think it saves like a second or two. It's like 2 or 3 seconds on PS5. It's very minute, but if you're used to going for save loads, it doesn't really. On the PC, it probably saves like 4 or 5 because of the load remover, because you're only counting the 2 seconds of save and not the 2 seconds of save plus 2 seconds of load. So you can go to Honeybee first or Sam. Sam is a little bit faster because of the way things go. You can kind of take a shortcut in between the two. Now, with the dialogue here, you got to be careful. As you noticed, as I probably glossed over when I came into town, when you talk with Sam, he's going to give you 3 different options. She's good with the books, gives you 3 points towards Madam M. The bottom dialogue options will give you 3 points towards Madam M. The middle dialogue options will give you 0 points towards anybody, and the she looks good or whatever it is, the top one will give you points towards Sam. You do not want Sam, so take the bottom dialogue options everywhere. The only exception is the money option and talking to Johnny. You shouldn't be talking to Johnny anyway. Hello, Clara. But right here, we don't care about this coin flip, so we're going to skip it. No deal, make sure we give a half a point to Sam, so if you do mess up one of your options, no deal will get you out of going to Sam as long as you get the other 2 correctly. So there's a skip, no deal, skip. You can choose heads, but that means you have to pick the right options for the rest. So make sure that you're used to picking the correct options. She's good with the books or the bottom dialogue options the first time you talk to Sam. So we just want to make sure we don't talk to Johnny. That gives us points towards Sam and will cost us a lot of time after the arena. There's nothing too special here. Just don't do what I do, and don't forget to walk inside a Honeybee Inn. So this does save a lot of time going to Sam and then Honeybee. It's much quicker than the other way around. But the problem is you lose a lot of time here, because Sam to Madam M is quicker. So you only end up saving a couple of seconds. I've timed it. It's pretty... you can go either way. If you kind of space out, it doesn't matter. So for New Game Easy and New Game Hard, you're going to have a ton of money. So just take the luxury course. That's points towards Madam M. 1,000 points gives you nobody, and 100 points gives you Sam. Now remember, those are for different dresses, so if you're, for some reason, doing a marathon run for dresses, you getting... or you're just doing casual runs in general, Sam and Madam M have 2 different dresses. Not doing anything gets you the same dress. And then doing all their side quests, I think, or half their side quests, I'm not sure, gives you their different dress. I think it's all the side quests you have to do. If you're doing an any percent category, it's kind of weird where, like, your thing kind of gets messed with, and it points towards the last person you got. I'm not quite sure about it. They may have, but the patch notes said nothing about it, so I haven't, somebody was asking about the PC version with the glitches and stuttering. I haven't updated this version because There are glitches that we use to get out of bounds and stuff, and I don't know if they've been patched, and I don't want to find out the hard way. I want my PC version to be available to do everything. The running is the game does run pretty rough, but it's not bad enough. So right here, this is another one of those where I was talking about regular dialer options. It's all right. That's for Sam. This gives you nobody, and this gives you Madam M. So make sure it's matter what I think. She's good with the books. The $3,000 hand massage, and that'll make sure you get Madam M every time. If you accidentally take one of the wrong ones, make sure you take no deal on the coin flip. Don't forget. Going to Sam's from Madam M's takes a lot of time, and it's just a time loss you want to avoid. That if you get it, you get it. You know, unless you're really on PB attempts and you've gotten a ton of runs in. It's not going to kill your run early on. It'll lose you like a minute or two max. So you can go kind of any way you want to the arena. Going down this alleyway I find is a little bit better. Because if you look at it, this alleyway is kind of angled while this is straight. So you get a little bit more direct movement. It's kind of... It's this or that. You know, tomato, tomato. Really doesn't save a ton of time. I just prefer it. It's a little bit harder to move through that alley, though, because there's more people and tent poles and a bunch of garbage. There is a pretty big save load here that'll save a nice bit of time. It saves a good 10-ish seconds. This one's really worth it. The other one, not so much, unless you're, like, really struggling for some time saves. So you want to move forward. On the PS5, I wouldn't move at all. On the PC, you usually have enough time to do this. As soon as this command menu and map load, that's your cue to open the save menu and then load, and you'll skip the entire elevator ride. Once again, if save loads are barred from your category, don't use them. If they are or are not barred, then this is a big time save. It loses you a little. It's probably a little bit slower on PC. It does cost you some real life time. Yeah, this isn't a run. We're doing some tutorial stuff, Clara. I'll be doing a run. I think I want to do a run later tonight and kind of see what the viewership is like during the nighttime, during the weekdays. See what if that's a better time to stream rather than the time I normally do. So we're going to go into the fights. Most of these fights can be settled pretty easily. You have a couple of different ways to do these. I'll show you kind of the silly YOLO way. I wouldn't suggest doing this because I find this can be a pain in the ass. But if you wait a little bit, you can usually get everything tied up in self-destruct. It's really slow. I wouldn't do it. You can just YOLO the self-destruct immediately. You're almost always going to have one dog alive. So if you're really feeling froggy and you want to jump, don't be surprised when you get slapped back down by the game. So, I'll show you, so you do have ATB boost, so you don't need to build bar normally. So what we're gonna do is, I'll show you the froggy way. So we'll do this, ATB boost, into self-destruct. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I got everything there. Normally, you would just follow up with a Thundaga from Aerith. That's not the way I would suggest doing this fight, because it can turn into it can spiral very quickly, if you go that direction. If for some reason Cloud's HP is like super low, or for whatever reason he has like no MP left and you need to get MP for the boss, then okay, because self-destructing at full HP will recover 10 MP, if for whatever reason. If that isn't the case, and you don't need to recover MP, or Cloud's MP isn't super low for some reason, here's how I would suggest you do this normally. Thundera, ATB boost, and then just spam triple slash to win. There you go. See, that's consistent. The self-destruct is faster and cooler, but, you know, why risk it? It's your choice. Completely, you can make whatever choices you want. Now remember, Magnify only hits up to 3 targets, and Thundera, and Thundaga have pretty narrow hitboxes. So you're gonna have a hard time multi-hitting with those spells. So this next group of Corneo thugs is going to be very hard to mow through. with anything other than self-destruct. So right here, you could do some experimentation and find out what works consistently for you. I find the best strat here is Kaboom into Thundera Magnify to clean off whatever's left out.
That's what the
So this fight I'll show off a couple of times. It's nothing too special. It's just hit things until they explode. Bop, 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 and then boom. And sometimes you hit everything, sometimes you don't. If you have only one target like that, you can just Thundera instead of Thundera Magnify. So what you should be doing, instead of what I just did, so don't do as I say, not as I do. This is normally what I do during runs. Problem is PC can take quite a bit to load sometimes. This fight right here, you do want to self-destruct. You can ATB boost if you want. I find it's not as consistent. Oddly enough. Cloud sometimes gets knocked out of it, or the animation can be kind of long, so sometimes you get this setup, but you kind of see how there's 1, 2, 3, you know. And then you can just Thundera Magnify again because she's staggered. But this is why I'm very conservative with my MP, because sometimes these fights can go really shittily to the point where you need to fire off a couple more spells than you really would want to normally. So I'll show you the A to B boost method. It's really... It kind of is... This fight's kind of a shit show, because there's so many enemies. Even with, like, Fire a Magnify... The problem is, with even if you go, like, Fire a Magnify or Fire a Magnify, Magnify will stop duplicating and targeting spells once the initial target and the two chosen targets are dead. And Fire a Magnify has a really large explosion bot, so same with Fire. So most of the time, unless you one-shot the entire freaking group with your initial spell, you're going to end up not getting any hits with the Magnify. So it's this fight's stupid. Ice Magnify or Wind Magnify would probably cut through this entire group pretty easily, though. So you can just, like, ATB boost if you want. And then sometimes... So there's one guy, just Thundera him. This is, like, one of the few fights where, like, Thunder Magnify kind of stinks. But there's so many machine monsters that, like, I find Thundera Magnify is a lot better. So... There's really no winners, no losers in that fight. Sometimes you self-destruct and get everything. Sometimes you self-destruct and a bazillion of them survive, and you're just like... that's just how it be. So this right here, there's a cutscene as soon as you walk through the door, so you don't really need to be on top of the door all that much. Or you're really not, like, trying to mash or anything. So Cuddy and Sweepy here, you can do a ton of different ways. I found some different methods. But I'll show you a couple of different ways to handle it.
It's not your turn yet.
Actually, let me wait. Now I can save. So you gotta wait for the ding-dong-ding in the background. So I'll show you off Cuddy and Sweepy real quick. This is kind of an obnoxious fight, too. You probably want to start off with Thundera Magnify here. And then if you really want to, you can just Disorder to win. And then you can just, like, ATB boost if you want. If you get them really clustered up, you can, the problem is Cuddy and Sweepy just, like, can separate like that. Disorder to win, Thundera Magnify, just keep in mind you want to activate ATB Assist, right? You get 600 ATB out of that, so that normally will fish you out of the hole where you can get another casting of Thundera Magnify. So, it depends on kind of how you want to build this fight out. But you always want to start with Thundera Magnify, and then just kind of, like, Disorder. You can Disorder multiple times. And then you see kind of right there how she has that extra cast now. So, if you end up getting them kind of moving in that weird way where they separate... this fight is one of those ones you should probably practice, because this is these two, Cuddy and Sweepy, can separate in weird ways to the point where, like, they're right on top of each other and you can just disorder both infinitely and get all your ATB back and just spam disorders recklessly. They can get right next to each other so you can self-destruct both of them. Or you can get fights where they're 10 feet apart and you're like, what happened? You know? And you're just like, what did I do wrong? See what I mean right here? And I could, like, ATB boost, self-destruct. You can do a ton of different things here. That whiffed because it was targeting the blades, so... That's one thing you want to make sure is you're targeting the main body, not the blades. The blades... You end up with this first Thundera Magnify on the blade. But that puts Cuddy in a passive state, so it's fine. I really don't have a defined way of how to deal with Cuddy and Sweepy because of their positioning being so random all the time, in my opinion. So, yeah, you're just trying to get that spell out as soon as possible. And then you want to just, like, that's what you're looking for.
Too bright?
That should be enough.
You jittery?
So, it's kind of like however you want to deal with it. Once again, if Cloud's MP is low, for whatever reason, like you were spamming spell throughout the entire highway and now you don't have enough MP for the boss. Because Cloud does need a little bit of MP for the boss. You can, once again, self-destruct. It is a lot of damage, too. So if you take care, if you like get a critical on Sweepy, the one with the guns, he has a much lower HP pool. You can self-destruct on Cuddy. But I would just, like, remember, there's a ton of different things, right?
How shocking. Too bright?
And then you can just kind of, like, ATB boost here. See, like, there's a ton of different ways you can handle this.
How shocking.
It's just a bunch of silliness, honestly. Just practice the fight until you find something you like. The problem is Cuddy and Sweepy tend to separate, so you end up in a really stupid position where you have to do a bunch of silly stuff. I find that the sooner you get the Thundera out, the more often they end up being separated. So you could hesitate with the Thundera Magnify, but there's also a really good chance that Aerith gets slapped down by Cuddy before she starts the spell out, and you end up in a really weird position. So we are going to go over to Hell House because this is integral to the chapter, but we're not going to do as much. I do have a pre-setup on Iron Blade. This is very particular for my setup. I find a lot of people split two elements between the characters. The final phase of Hell House gives you a random element, and you need to use the opposite element to get it off the hook when it's in its flying phase. So for me, I have Lightning Ice on Cloud, and I will have Fire Wind on Aerith. There are other setups, depending on how hard this is for you. With Synergy, you can usually just force your way through this boss fight, even if you screw up, but hopefully you don't. Poison is a nice little thing that I can add in because I have Buster Sword. I'm also using Buster Sword because you need a very specific balance of physical and magical attack to make this fight work. Everybody's fight's different, so keep that in mind that Iron Blade and Buster Sword are usually the one that you need to make this fly because they're weakened physical and magical to the point where you don't screw things up. Binding is really important too because you always want to get Berserk on Hell House. I'm going to get rid of healing. So I could have always had Skillmaster on, but healing is a nice backup to have because sometimes Aerith gets slapped around pretty hard. So it is a nice thing. We can MP Absorb. We're going to take Lightning off, double Lightning, so now we're on Fire, MP Absorb. This could be Magnify if you want it, but I find that the MP Absorb is nicer to have, and you would need it for faster Abzu 1. And Synergy Wind, I find, works out pretty well. There's several different ways to do this, but they all require a ever-lovingly massive amount of math. So, if this doesn't work for you, you can just do the Unga Bunga method. But remember that this is very specific. Hell House is a really rough boss, and what we can do is set up the stagger values so that... Okay, Okamuka, I'll see. I hope that the video helps you out then. But Hell House's God mode, we can go from phase 2 to phase 3, And if we transition the phase just ever so perfectly by hitting the right little bit of HP value, and not lock the HP, the stagger bar will stay full, so we can instantaneously stagger phase 3 once he puts on the God Shield. So what we're doing is we're killing phase 1 and making sure to not end it with magic, which screws with the stagger value. For whatever reason, when you kill a lot of bosses with magic and they transition to the second phase, they will sometimes carry over stagger value. There's basically kill it with a sword, kill it with the magic attacks, kill it with basic attacks, limits, braver, any of that shit. You do not want to end phase 1 with magic. So that's part of the issues you may be suffering. Phase 2, we got the rushdown phase. You need to start that as Cloud. We're going to use a counter and a triple slash to put the boss into pressure. And then we're going to flip over to Aerith and start doing the inputs from there, which will keep her from doing any synergy spells. The synergized spells will screw up your stagger values, so that's why we're doing that. So phase 1, we're going to lay down an Arcane Ward. I'm going to Disorder with Cloud. That will trigger 2 arrows. I'm going to Berserk with Cloud on the boss. That will trigger an additional 2 arrows. And then from there, you basically basic combo to win. That will push you into the next phase. So I'll show this off a couple of times, and then we can proceed. So Hell House can be quite the frustrating boss. You don't... I would leave Arcane Ward on Aerith. You're going to use it for a lot of fights if you're using my strat. So Arcane Ward, Aerith, Disorder, and Berserk. Now, just keep attacking to win. Hell House will eventually get staggered. You can switch out stances if you want. Just keep on swinging away, and you'll be fine. Now, like I said, Rushdown. You're going to Aurora with Aerith, and that will be an Arcane Ward, so she'll cast it twice. You're going to go hard left with Cloud, because she loves to jump into this Hell House Rushdown and get hit. So you need to go hard left to make sure that she won't jump into it. No matter what strat you're doing, you need to keep an eye out for that, because the AI in the PC and the PS5 version loves to jump towards danger instead of away from it. So we're going to arrow row with her. I'm going to move left with Cloud. Punisher, get a counter, fill out my ATB, triple slash. That'll put the Hell House into pressure. Switch over to Aerith and start doing my commands from there. Cloud will give me a regular Thundera, which will push a very specific amount of stagger, and then I'll fire with Aerith, switch back to Cloud, and build a little bit of ATB before I wait for the phase to transition. You do need these 2 regular attacks at the end of this string to make this work, so keep that in mind. Everything here is very specific. So right here, you make sure you bio. I got a very early stand-up, so that's nice. Thundera. And as long as you do that command string the same every time, you'll always get this stagger break. And Hell House will instantly get staggered out of God mode, so you no longer have to deal with phase 3. You just sit here and wail on Hell House and take all of his HP away. So keep that in mind. We'll do this a few more times because we are dealing with a full chapter run through, but it doesn't really matter. You know, this isn't dedicated specifically to Hell House, so you want to stick with Cloud there for a little bit because you'll notice that the chairs are focusing on him. That will free Aerith up to just kind of move around and do whatever. You need to build up ATB as you do. Make sure you Berserk with Cloud before Hell House gets in full position. And then right here, we're going to see that we have Ice, because it's the light blue, but you don't see any like wind particle effects. So fire with Aerith, and we'll just fire with Aerith and Disorder. You can Thunder with Cloud, whichever you would like, but you can see Hell House is going to go down. So we're going to reset and do this again. I'm sorry that I can't show you this in like a slower pattern. You can do a lot of this in the menu, but not all of it. The triple slash basically has to be done at speed. The rest of it, just remember, phase 2. You transition with regular attacks, no magic. Rush down. Aurora Magnify with Aerith, or Aurora with Aerith. You can do it through the tactical menu or not. I've done it that way before. Hard left with Cloud. Punisher. stance, switch into the rush, Punisher counter. Triple slash out of that, and while you're starting up triple slash, as you see Cloud start doing it, switch to Aerith. This will prevent Synergy from activating any additional arrows. If you do get arrows right there, just keep wailing on Hell House until you get the phase transition. Because what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to keep that stagger bar. You're going to hit the HP cap, HP lock, and that's going to empty out the stagger bar. In that case, what you need to do is focus down the hands with either Thunder or any sort of attack. Thunder on the Arcane Ward is probably your best bet. And get multiple casts and break the hand as soon as possible, and then focus down the main body once you've staggered it out of that. If you're having issues with it, just break the hand normally. Don't worry about all this other stuff. So you triple slash, switch to Aerith, Thunder a Cloud, wait for the lightning bolt thing to show up. Because once you see the flash of the lightning bolt, that means it will no longer activate Synergy. Fire with her and then switch back to Cloud. That'll be a good timing method to make sure you don't accidentally trigger Synergy with that Thundera. You need to hit Hell House twice while in Punisher stance, and you can either cancel that by rolling, or the easier way, by triggering ATB boost. The first two slashes cannot be canceled by anything, so a roll or ATB boost will time it perfectly. When you're in Punisher, when you hit square, it's normally a 4 attack string combo, but for whatever reason, the first two can't be canceled properly, so you either roll out of it or ATB boost to cancel it. And then from there, it's just kind of spam whatever commands you want. Bio Thundera isn't super important. It's just so you have poison in the next phase. Bio takes forever to hit, so we kind of like slow roll that phase a little bit to make sure Bio actually pops, because it takes like 5 seconds to activate or something.
It's not even about show 'em what you got.
So, like, if you can't learn this, try and learn somebody else's method. But I'd say see how far you can take it through tactical menu, because this fight is a lot of really fast inputs back to back. So, so you can kind of do this any sort of way you want. The only way you kind of get screwed is if you see Cloud, if you go Disorder Berserk immediately, like I was showing you, you can sometimes get hit by a chair. I still need to experiment with other methods, but if you do get hit in between Disorder and Berserk, and it gets interrupted, reset immediately, because your ATB assist will not activate, and Aerith's ATB will completely screwed up, and you'll have to watch this 30-second cutscene and realize you're screwed. Because you look at her ATB and you're like, she's got 1 bar, this is not going to work. So, like, all of this is a major part, is one whole string of inputs, for the most part. If she starts with very, very, very low ATB, and you see, like, you're about ready to transition phases, but she only has, like, you see Hell House go down, and you see the flame element go away, and you just take a quick look at her ATB. If you see she only has, like, 1 bar, you can switch to her and do a couple of pokes with her magic, or at least just switch to her real quick, then switch back to Cloud. She'll get boosted ATB gain for that attack that you output, so that should help correct her ATB. It's very rare that this is a problem, but it is something to keep in mind. As long as she has 1,300 or more ATB, you should be good. I think she needs over 1,300, though, because ATB boost gives 600, and we're going to be activating that every single time. So once again, it doesn't matter which side you switch to. You can also put Era on triangle and buffer your input swap. But that's something else that can be, it's kind of hard to explain. Okay, so I see the lightning bolt, swing, bashing ATB boost, and I canceled immediately. Sometimes this takes a while, sometimes it doesn't. If you wait for Hell House to completely stand up, you're always going to be okay. But once you see the shield go away, switch to Punisher and push the rest of the damage. So you don't have to use Bio if you don't want, but the extra damage is pretty nice. It's you cannot deny it. If Cloud's ATB is low, you can also just kind of run around here and do the same thing. Same thing with Aerith right here. You can poke for the rest of the phase. If you want to be extremely greedy, you can try and trigger a new Skill Master loop, but I wouldn't suggest it. It's something I was going for a while too, and it just... it makes things a lot riskier than it needs to be. Oops, double Berserk. Oops, all wind. So I need to cast Thunder here real quick, because I screwed up. And luckily for me, I'm boned. See, so like, right there, you can very easily screw up. I accidentally cast Berserk twice because I thought I ate the input. If you're quick about it, and you think you may have double cast with a character or double input a shortcut, if you switch to a character real quick, you can cut the input and block it. If you ever think that's the case, make sure to just swap between characters real quick and clear out your Quay. The one way you can avoid making sure that is not using shortcuts, just tactical menu. Because then you'll know the input got input if you tactically... so this will be the last time I'll take a swing at the boss. So we're gonna Arcane Ward, Disorder into Berserk, and then we're gonna build up some bar here. Aerith's ATB look a little bit low, so I'm gonna poke a few times with her manually. Alright, so everybody's got massive amounts of ATB here. You're gonna take some damage here. You could heal up. You want to make sure, this is why I keep heal actually, so you can heal up after Cuddy and Sweepy. Aerith shouldn't be getting hit a lot by this. She should only take a couple of hits in this first phase, and she shouldn't get hit anymore for the rest of the fight, but this fight used to be a lot dicier than it is now. So I'm actually going to screw this up on purpose. Triple slash. And then we're just going to triple slash again. So I did accidentally push it on purpose. We're going to go into Thunder the Arms. And the problem is this happens unless you're really extremely quick at breaking the arms. It kind of sucks. So, like, if you're not, if you screw it up, just go after the arms, and, like, make sure, the easiest way is to just go ATB boost, and then spam level 1 commands on the ward. So, like, Thunder, Thunder, whatever, it'll break the arms very quickly. You could, Thundera, Thundera. The problem is, it wasn't Berserked? I screwed up the triple slash on purpose, so maybe I did, maybe Berserk never went off. It's on this time. Okay, so her ATB is fine. Just keep on going. So I'll mess this up on purpose again, and I'll try and break the arm. If you get him up, you're not screwed, but it does take forever if you let him up on the pedestal. The whole trick is to just try and get the stagger going. If you screw up and accidentally get the arrows, just go for a disorder or whatever to push more synergy procs. That's what you should be going for. So like arrow, and sometimes you can do that. I don't think this will work. Okay, actually it does. Interesting. We're gonna Thundera. Fire. And then if you actually work this right, Blizzard. Okay, so the thing right here is Cloud's at really low HP. So we're going to have to actually tank with Aerith here. Which is not super nice, but it's fine. Normally you want to tank with Cloud, so you can just kind of run this out with Aerith and be fine. He shouldn't get killed by anything, but I have been surprised by the AI before. So we're going to want to Berserk manually here. And then we're going to just charge up a Tempest. We have Ice, so we can Fire-a. And then Thundera, Fire-a. Cloud Disorder. Okay, I thought I... whatever. So, like, it gets messy if you don't do things properly. But you can fake your way through this fight. If you're still having issues with getting the instant stagger, figure out whatever works for you. And just keep in mind, like, phase 4, if once he's flying in the air, whoever you're on will be the one that's targeted by the chairs. Cloud normally has the more HP, but if he's in a situation like this where his HP is low, you absolutely need to make sure either him or Aerith is still alive. They both need to still be alive, because that final phase of the flying Hell House is a random element, and if you end up on a 50-50 and like Cloud or Aerith is dead, you got a 50% chance that you have the right element. And if you don't have the right element, he's going to land on you. And even if you somehow survive him landing on you, which ain't going to happen, he'll still put God mode up. And you're not going to be able to break his arm again without Aerith or Cloud both being up to break the arm. Because Cloud has ice, which will get the stagger through real quick, and Aerith has synergy, which is going to break the arm real quick. So you're damned if you do, damned if you do. So make sure, like, keeping them both alive is the important part. But the setup is very particular for mine. If you can't do my Hell House fight, that's fine. Just try and get consistent at getting through the fight first. Hell House is a very hard fight, and I'd say he's like the first stumbling block. I've seen a lot of runners come and go that have had a lot of issues with this idiot. Hell House is a pretty big stumbling block. So the rest of the chapter is pretty much over. There's one more fight right before the sewer. Fire Magnify. Fire will take care of that. Somersault, whatever, because you're going to have Tifa in the party. Of note, the dance minigame here is, I believe, upwards of 2 minutes long. So it's your big chance to refill your water, take a pee break, make sure you grab a snack or something. This is a 5-hour run, 4 hours if you're going glitched. You know, just make sure you're taking care of yourself. Especially for newer runners, these aren't short runs. I know my first run was like 8 hours long. I was on the PS4, so it loaded much slower, but still. Now we have Madame M's quests. This saves a lot of time. Normally, if we get Sam's quest, we have to go run over to his door. But what we get to do right here is just walk out and walk right back. So we're going to do that. I will go through the rest of the chapter, even though the movement here is pretty straightforward. There's nothing too special, and I can't really think of anything particular I want to explain. Just know that now is going to be your last chance to take a longer break. The last couple of breaks are in Chapter 16, in the little Shinra hallways. And those are 2 split breaks that are closer to sub 60 seconds a pop, so you don't even really get a minute in between the two. So if you need to do something, now's the time to do it. Yeah, we don't have any more fights with Cloud, so him being low HP doesn't matter. And normally you would get a refill once you get done with Hell House. Or not Hell House. Once you get done with the dance, your party gets a recovery. You'll get your HP refilled in hard mode, and I believe in New Game Plus Easy, you get your MP back. Honestly, like, as you could tell, my Aerith MP is ridiculously high, especially with the MP absorbs being factored in. 78. So she has a lot more MP to play with than what I showed you. You can be a lot more aggressive with her spells, especially if you're going to add the MP absorb to fire. That means most of your fires are going to only cost you 2 to 3 MP for Firas and 1 to 2 for fires. So it is a significant amount of MP back, and it will cover you. Hey, okay. Thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it. Have a good day. So we'll go get over to the dance, and we'll call it a day. I'll let you guys figure out how to take care of 2 of Corneo's thugs on your own, right? I will talk about the menu real quick before we do the dance. I do have a menu that I do in Corneo's mansion. I preset my True Stringer, Twin Stinger rather, to re-equip my Mithril Saber for the next segment. You can use this setup for the entire sewers if you would like. I use Iron Blade. I find it works out better for me. I'm more of an Unga Bunga player than I am a logical player, so spells really don't work out very well for me, but I'll show you what the Twin Stinger would look like. So it's Fire Elemental, Ice, Wind, HP Up, and Binding. You can use this for the entire sewers. The Nail Bat will be your exit pole for Chapter 12 to get you into Fire, Magnify, Fire, MP Absorb. So at that point, you still don't need the HP ups. So you would go Twin Stinger, nope. And then you would go Mithril Blade, yes. And that's why I didn't matter that I took the certain things off the materia, certain materia off the Mithril Saber earlier. You'll also swap out the Wind Synergy for Fire Synergy, which Aerith has, actually. So normally Aerith would be up here, or Tifa would be up here in this slot, and Aerith would be in this slot. So it would normally be this direction, Fire Synergy, Fire MP Absorb, and that will facilitate a faster Abzu fight. You would also want to toggle into Fyra and Fire for Abzu, as well as Aerith is actually ironically set up for Abzu to the point where you don't need it. This will end up getting magnified, so that actually ends up being beneficial for the sewers as well. A lot of my stuff just, ironically enough, floats right into the next thing. Pick one of these two to be your somersault button. Don't do both like I do. This is a holdover from one of my older routes because I believe I used to do something like this. And I would toggle my limits, which can be efficient. Because Tifa really isn't good at casting spells. So you could do that. Just pick one for somersault because you really don't need Dolphin Flurry until Chapter 12. And then you'll downgrade it again. So, I mean, it's kind of your choice. But I double down on somersault so I don't miss input. But that'll be it for Chapter 9. So normally you could just load into the sewers from here. Like I said, there's one fight in Corneo's mansion. The Corneo doors can be opened quicker by mashing up to them and then holding. For whatever reason, they open a little bit quicker. It's also faster to talk to Aerith, but we'll go over that if and when we do Chapter 10. So I'll see you guys later. I hope this helped, and good luck with the learning the run. If there's anything that's really hard to understand, or I should probably make a standalone video on, please feel free to comment and let me know so that I make sure to cover those specific things.